reading newspaper is more and more important because we are going to deal with a subject which requires newspaper reading. Okay, on a very vast scale, newspaper reading is important because international relations subject is always changing. International relations, when we heard this particular term, the first thing that comes to our mind is our relation with other countries. Okay, how is India's relation with Pakistan, India's relation with United States of America, and today India is at the center. Okay, center in the sense everybody is looking at India. Everybody is looking at the developments that are happening in India. Why? Because G20 summit. Okay, yesterday and day before yesterday was the G20 summit happening in India. It was in New Delhi, and almost all these countries attended the summit. And whatever decisions they have taken in the G20 summit, it is very important because for UPSC perspective also it is important. Why? Because this 20 summit has happened in India, and you can expect questions maybe in the upcoming mains examination, that is in 2023 mains examination. Also you can expect questions based on G20, and 2024 definitely you will have questions related to G20 summit in India, because India was actually presiding this session. So that is the important. So we need to carefully look at everything. Why? Because India is right now the talk of the town, or it is the center of attraction for almost all other countries. Okay, so now whatever decisions India is taking, whatever agreements India is engaging in, is all important for us, for UP, from the UPSC perspective. Okay, so international relations, let me introduce this subject to you. Already I have done an introduction in the beginning, but you might have forgotten that. So just to give a very clear understanding regarding this, I would like to go through the subject once again. International relations. So international relations is mainly coming in GS2, okay, general studies 2. But whatever importance that we are giving here, we will not expect that many questions in prelims and mains from the international perspective, but you can expect a lot of questions from Indian polity. So let me tell you, Indian polity, geography, history, economics, these four subjects are really important. Why? Because you can expect minimum of 10 questions from these subjects. Okay, minimum of 10 questions from these subjects, but other subjects are like additions. So we cannot say that how many questions can come from these areas, but these questions are mainly connected with the current affairs only. Okay, for other subjects you can expect static questions also. In polity, history, geography, economics, etc., you can expect static questions. But on the other hand, international relations and all, these are all questions which will be highly connected with the current affairs. So we need to carefully watch what is happening around. You need to carefully read Hindu newspaper. Hindu newspaper is a must read for international relations, not for international relations alone, for all other subjects. Hindu newspaper is a must read. So especially when you're reading newspaper, please go through the news and try to understand which are the news are highly connected with the international relations, that is the world affairs, and what is India's role in that. That is also really important from India's perspective. Whether it is important for India, that is a matter here. Whether India is having any type of connection in that area, that is a matter here. Because UPSC is a recruiting agency in India, a recruiting institution in India. So they clearly look at it from the perspective of India. Whether what is the role of India, what is the relevance of India in that particular context, that is what they are carefully looking at. So always try to analyze the news. For analyzing the news, you have to read the news. So I hope you are reading the news. So this is a world map. Okay, you can see the world map. So whatever happening in these areas, it's all important for us. Anywhere, whatever happening, no, it's all important for us. Okay, now this is an important area for us. So what is it here?
United States America.
United States of America, very important. Our relation with United States of America, always watch it carefully. Okay, now another important area is this area. What is this area? Russia. Yes, Russia. India's relation with US, India's relation with Russia, India's relation with China. Here it is China. India's relation with Pakistan, okay, India's relation with the neighboring countries, all the neighboring countries. Just you can understand it in terms of SAARC countries, all the SAARC countries. How is our relation with the SAARC countries? We need to understand it carefully. Okay, and India's relation with important organizations like European Union, important organization like the United Nations organization. So all these are very important. And the recent organization, that is the recently updated organizations are like the G20. Something is happening. Some updations are happening in G20 and Quad. There is an important organization happening in this region, that is with the United States, then Australia, India, etc. So it's a very important organization, and there are organizations which mainly focus on Indian Ocean and Pacific, Indo-Pacific region. That is also a very crucial area right now, because China is greatly discussed in that area, because Chinese influence is growing in that area. So what is India's role in that area? What is India's role in the SAARC countries? What is India's role in the East Asian or the Southeast Asian nations, that is the ASEAN? So this is one perspective. One, we need to understand India's relation with the countries, the nations, the independent nations. Another one is we need to understand India's relation with the organizations. Okay, so that is regional organizations as well as the international organizations. Okay, the main the world organizations. Okay, for what is India's approach? Very important. Okay, so this is one area you need to be very clear about. So for that, you need to have an idea about the entire map. This not only contribute to international relations, it contribute to geography, it contribute to economy, it contribute to politics. In every area, it will actually contribute to you. So please try to have an idea about the entire map. Okay, so location of various oceans. Pacific Ocean is actually coming here, but India is almost the oblique spheroid is the shape of India. So it is actually almost coming like a round, no? So Pacific Ocean's extension, you will be able to see it here. So here it is coming. Pacific Ocean, because it's like around Pacific Ocean's I mean extension will be there. Then you can have Atlantic Ocean. Atlantic Ocean is actually coming in between two important land masses here. The Europe and the African regions are here, and here you can see that the North American regions and the South American regions are here. So here comes the Atlantic Ocean. So something is happening in the Atlantic Ocean is very important for India. Okay, because we are having very close connection with there, and we are having our trade relations, and how our trade is actually happening. Ship route. Okay, trade route is there, and sea route is very important for trade, right? So India is actually taking its trade through various regions. So wherever India is going, all those areas are important for us. India is having very good relation with the Latin American countries. India is having export-import relations with the North American countries, with the African countries, with the European countries. So we are actually taking these routes. So that is also important. Now comes the Indian Ocean, very important for us, because India is located in this, and this particular ocean is named after India only, Indian Ocean region. The whole this area you can see it as Indian Ocean region only. Okay, so India is the one of the largest countries in this area, and China is trying to have its upper hand over this region. That is also another question, because China is having very cordial relation with Pakistan. They are actually building something called as Gwadar port in this area. Okay, they already built something called as Hambantota port in Sri Lanka. They already built something called as Sitwe port in Myanmar. Okay, so all these things you should watch very carefully. Okay, and why I'm saying this is it's not only international relations, it actually helps you in all other subjects also. Okay, so this is the way we need to approach this international relations. For that, a very clear idea about the map is important. I hope you bought the atlas. We have already told you that you need to buy the atlas, and it was mentioned in the geography class also. Atlas is very important. Why? Because when you're reading newspaper, please keep an atlas with you. I think when you have gone through our map reading classes, I told you about the importance of map. Okay, when you are reading a news, okay, something is happening in Morocco, means you should be able to locate where is Morocco. Okay, you should be able to locate where is Morocco. Where is Morocco? Can anybody tell me which continent it is there at least? Okay, Africa. It's correct, but is it near to South Africa? Morocco, is it near to South Africa? No. It is actually coming in the North African region. Okay. It is actually coming in this region. This is the region. You will find Morocco. So you need to have an idea about what are the countries coming in this area. Egypt, Libya, Tunisia. Okay, all these places are important. So here comes the Moroccan region, Moroccan area. Okay, so this kind of understanding you need to have. This is visual, highly visual in nature. So you need to develop that. You won't be able to study the map in one day. You won't do that. You won't be able to do that. Why I'm telling this? Because every day, if you're actually going through the map, no, when you're actually reading the newspaper, try to keep that at least with you. And every day when you're reading, then after 1 month, no, it will be there in your memory. The entire map will be there in your memory. You don't need to search for anything. Once somebody is actually reading about the France, you will have the location of France in your mind. So that is important for us. When you are writing the main answers, it will be important. When you are actually locating some things in the geography, it will be important. So everywhere it is important. You just imagine something is happening in the European region. A war is happening. Ukraine Russia war is happening. You may be knowing about where is Ukraine and where is Russia, but you should also have an idea about what are the nearby countries, because this war is not only affecting these two countries, it affects the other countries also, because refugee crisis will be there. People will be going to other places. Okay, Indians were there in Russia and Ukraine. From where they were evacuated, many of these people, they came to Poland. Then only we have actually evacuated them. So where is Poland? Why they are coming to Poland? Because the accessibility. Okay, so this kind of understanding you need to make. It is not just like reading the news. It is like, what is the extra thing that you can do? What is the extra research that you can do with that particular news? That makes you different from other aspirants. That makes your answer different from other aspirants. That will fetch you more marks. Okay, so this understanding you need to have. You have to have a very clear idea about the maths. Now, coming to the preliminary examination syllabus and the main examination syllabus. Okay, see, there is only one line they mentioned about international relations in the preliminary examination: current events. Okay, so the word is very important. Current events means, what is the only source of information regarding current events for us? What is that only source?
Newspaper.
Yes. So that is the only thing they have mentioned in the preliminary examination syllabus. Current events of national and international importance. So national importance, it's important for us because it has its own applications in the polity, geography, economics, etc., history, etc. International importance, that becomes an important topic here in. Okay, so current events. Now I think you know what is the relevance of reading newspaper. Only one line they have mentioned: current events of national and international importance. So here comes another important information. That is, when you are reading current events for any events that is happening in the present scenario, there is a history for that. There is a root cause for that particular problem. Okay, if something is happening in Russia, Ukraine, if the Russia Ukraine war is happening, suddenly it was not happening. Suddenly the war just when everybody wake up on a particular day, a war started. No, it was not like that. There is a history for that. What is the cause? What is the reason behind this war? That becomes also important, because you might be looking at it from the current affairs perspective, but when you are looking at it in the current affairs perspective, you should also understand about the history. Okay, so this is how the subject becomes more and more interesting. So that's about the preliminary examination perspective. So everything is important. They are not specifically mentioning which area you need to cover, which type of relations you need to cover. They are not specifically mentioning about anything. They are simply saying one thing: current events of national and international importance. Now, coming to mains examination syllabus, now you have a broad area to cover. That is India and its neighborhood relations. So how is our relation with the neighbors? Is it smooth? Okay, or is there any problems? What are the problems and prospects in connection with India's relation with China? What are the problems and prospects in connection with India's relation with Pakistan? So when you are trying to understand India's relation with Pakistan, we are not looking at it in the current scenario. We have to look at it from the perspective of history. How these two nations formed, what was two nation theory, how the partition occurred, after partition, how we engaged in a war, how the other consequent wars happened, what was the result of it, what was the strategy we were following in these wars. All these things will become important for us. Okay, our relation with China. When you're actually looking at it from the conflictual relation between India and China in the current scenario, you should also look at what happened in 1962. In 1962, also something happened. A war happened between India and China. 1962, and before that, in 1954, an agreement has actually started. An agreement was established between India and China, and that it is famously known as Panchsheel Principles. Panchsheel Principles. It was between India and China. Panchsheel Principles. Five principles were there. In that, everything was friendly, everything was cooperative in nature. But suddenly, after 6 years or 7 years, you were actually witnessing a war between these two countries. So what happened? And after that, what happened in our relation with China? Now also, we are having a very cordial relation with USA because one factor is China. Because international relation, if you look at our international system, if you look at it, is always depending on the balance. There is something called as balance of power. Okay, so now we are only talking about the relations, but there is theory behind these relations. Power theories, balance of the concept of balance of power, the concept of deterrence, nuclear deterrence. It is also theory. So you might have heard about these things, but you may not be having an idea about it. So what is this balance of power? There was a situation in the world when United States of America emerged as the supreme power in the world after the Second World War. When they have tested the nuclear weapon or the atomic bombs in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, everybody understood that we cannot compete with United States of America because they are supreme. If you're trying to trigger them, then we will be attacked. Our position will be really, really bad. But suddenly, what happened? There is another country started emerging. That was the USSR. So USSR also emerged. Then USA is on this hand. So now there is a problem for other countries. What should they follow? Should they remain as a neutral nation, or should they follow any of these nations? So when they are looking at USA, they saw that okay, it's a powerful country. It has its own wealth. Okay, they are also helping other countries. They are giving economic aid as part of the various plans, the Marshall Plan and all those things. They are giving economic aid and things like that. So it is a safe haven for us. So some of the countries joined with United States of America, and some countries joined with USSR because they are having a communist ideology backing, the socialist ideology backing. So whatever countries were inspired with this idea, they joined the socialist bloc. So what happened was, then there is a balance. One country is supreme and this country is also supreme. These are all two countries are considered as superpowers. So there is a balance now. So when there is a balance, then the possibility of a war will be reduced when there is a balance. Okay, because both the countries know that if we are attacking this nation, the same kind of the force, the same kind of effect will be there in their retaliation. So both the nations were understanding the fact that if you are attacking mutually agreed destruction, it should not happen. That is known as MAD, mutually agreed destruction. It should not happen. Okay, so there is a fear between both these countries. It is the same case in the present scenario also when you are coming to the international system. China is growing on the one hand. On one side, economically they are growing, strategically they are growing, militarily they are growing. In all aspects, you can see that China is growing. Okay, so it is a threat for India. Why we are considering it as a threat for India? Because we are having border issues with China in the northeastern regions and also in the Kashmir area. We are having border issues. So without sorting out these border issues, we cannot trust China. We We say that this is our area, this is our property, it's our territory. But China is considering it as a disputed territory. It is theirs. Have you heard about something called as the stapled visa? Recently, it was there in the news. Stapled visa. So stapled visa was an issue that is connected with China. China was giving this visa, the stapled visa, to the Indian wushu players. Okay, why they are giving this wushu stapled visa? They are only giving this to people who belong to Arunachal Pradesh. People who are coming from Arunachal Pradesh, they are giving stapled visa because they are considering Arunachal Pradesh and those people are their people only, or a disputed area only. But it is our integral part of India. We are considering it as an integral part. So what India did, we didn't send anyone for the for Wushu tournament. It is not only these Arunachal Pradesh players; others are also there for going. Or around 8-member team was there to go to the championship. But we didn't send, our Indian government we didn't send others also. Why? Because it's a protest against what is happening. And this happened in 2014 also, 2013-14 also. It was for Kashmir and also for the Arunachal Pradesh, staple visa. So all these things become important for us. So you cannot neglect any news that is coming in relation with international relations. Okay, in the Hindu newspaper. Hindu newspaper, please read every day, every day. Okay. Now, so first one is India and its neighborhood relations. Second one is bilateral, regional, global groupings and agreements involving India and or affecting India's interests. Very, very important, right? So bilateral means always, bi means two. Okay, two. When two countries are engaging in an agreement, or when an organization and when a country is engaging in an agreement, we call it as a bilateral agreement. So any kind of a bilateral agreement which has its own impact or effect on India is important for us. As a civil service aspirant, it is important for us. The regional groupings in the area is important for us. African Union is a regional grouping. SARC is a regional grouping. European Union is a regional grouping. Okay, the Latin American countries union, it's a regional grouping. So all these are regional. Regional means one area specific. Okay, so and these regional groupings has its own relevance in the international spectrum. Recently, two international organizations are getting more and more significance. One is G20, another one is BRICS. Okay, India just attended the BRICS conference at Johannesburg. BRICS conference. It was actually happening in 1 month only. BRICS conference and the G20 summit. So these two organizations are getting its own prominence in international relations right now. Whatever decisions they were taking, it is important. So what are the countries in BRICS? Brazil is there, India is there, Russia is there, China is there, South Africa is there. So whatever advancements or whatever updations are happening in this area, you need to be very carefully look at it. And what was India's stand on that? Okay, all these things are relevant for us. That is regarding the regional groupings. Or then comes the global groupings. So the Quad is a global grouping, or United Nations is a global grouping, or BRICS is a global grouping. All these things you need to follow carefully. Follow. So every time when you're following it, it's not like you need to follow all the global groupings. It's not like that. In this 1 year, that is current affairs. No, that is important for us. In this 1 year, which all groupings are having its own relevance, or what all groupings were there in the news, or the highlights, or were there in the I mean in the international sphere. What are the things we were discussing about? Those groupings we need to carefully watch, and what all the groups are having its relation with India. Recently, just take 1 year only, because we are going to write 2024 examination. So in this year, what is happening with these groupings? And what are the developments, the recent developments, how it is affecting India? This should be our perspective. Because our syllabus also says like that only. What is its impact or what is its effect on India's interest? That is only we need to understand. Okay. From that perspective, only you should look at it. Okay. Now comes effect of policies and politics of developed and developing countries on India's interest and Indian diaspora. Okay. So till now we were talking about India, the country India, people who are living in this country. Okay. How it is impacting the people who are living in this country and all. And now we also want to talk about Indian diaspora. The people of Indian origin, the people who belong to India, who are living in the other parts of the world. We call them as Indian diaspora. Okay, somehow they will be having some kind of connection with India. Okay, so we call them as Indian diaspora. So what about the welfare of these people and how it is affecting the Indian diaspora in that area? That is also important. Why, when Russia-Ukraine war started, why Indians were tensed about the security of Indians in that area, and why the Indians were engaging in evacuation measures. When the Syrian war was happening, India was sending its warships to Syria to evacuation, for the evacuation process, not for war, but for evacuation processes. And when the in Afghanistan, when Taliban took over power, it was complete chaos. It was completely confused situation. That time also you could see that India acted in a very swift manner. We evacuated our people from Afghanistan because we don't believe in the Taliban government. We were not believing in Taliban government. We stopped our embassy there. Okay, all our foreign diplomatic things, everything was stopped. Everything was cancelled in Afghanistan. Then we came back to India. We took everyone back to India. So why this is happening? Because Indian diaspora, Indian people were living in the other parts of the world. We should also take care of their interest. Okay, so that is what happening. Effect of policies and politics of developed and developing countries, both type of countries. If US is taking a decision, how it is affecting the Indians there? If some South Africa is kind of considered as a developing country, South Africa is taking a decision, how it is affecting the people who are living in that area, especially Indians. Okay, in Gulf regions, we always try to maintain a very cordial relation with the Gulf countries, the Middle Eastern countries like UAE, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, etc. Why we are maintaining a very cordial relation with these areas, this place, this Middle Eastern region? Because if you look at the Indian foreign remittances, from where we are getting these remittances, Indians are working in this area. They are providing a lot of employment for Indians in these areas. And because we in our country, we won't be able to give employment for each and everyone in this country. It is not possible at all. We are facing two important issues. One is unemployment and one is poverty. It is because of unemployment, poverty is there. Okay, it is because of poverty, unemployment is there. It is mutually connected. So these countries are always helping us. They are providing employment to our people and they are sending money to India. So that becomes a revenue source for the country also, the government also. Right. So we are having a cordial relation with them. So when their policy, when they are coming up with a policy which is affecting Indians, it is always a concern for us. Then India will try to have a very cordial meeting with them. Okay, how to sort out these issues and all. We will try to have a cordial relation. Just take the case of the Sri Lanka war. Okay, Sri Lanka war that happened in 2009 between the Sri Lankan military or the Sri Lankan government and the LTTE. Many civilians were affected. Tamil civilians were affected. We all considered them as our Indian diaspora. So there were a lot of problems happening in India also that time. Okay, so this is how India is connected. This is how the policies of the developing countries or the policies of the developed countries is affecting the Indians or the Indian diaspora living in that area. So that is also a huge concern for us. We should carefully watch that. If something is happening in Morocco, we should always see if Indians are affected by this. Okay, if tsunami is happening, we always look at it. If Indians are affected by this, if war is happening, if a natural calamity is happening, or anything that is happening around, we always look at how it impacted India, how was affected Indians. Okay, so that idea or that objective you should have when you're reading the newspaper. When you're reading newspaper, no, you can write in newspaper itself. Just for practice only. I'm not saying you need to keep all these newspaper with you. I'm not saying like that, but just try to write it. Try to make notes. Always make note with a separate book. That is always good. But when you're reading newspaper also, no, that will also help you. Just write some points, and later you can just note it in the copy it in your book. Okay, so this is regarding the effect of policies and politics of developed and developing countries. Now comes important international institutions, agencies, fora, their structure and mandate. Okay, very important area, because international institutions, we cannot neglect the role of international institutions. Always they play an important role. Okay, just look, take the case of uh, the the World War. Okay, World War. What are the major institutions that played a bigger role during World War? United Nations Organization. Okay, very important organization during that time, because they played a bigger role in addressing the issues. United Nations. In 1945, the United Nations Organization came into being. 1945. And when that organization came, they came with only one motto. Their only objective was to establish peace and security, international peace and security. And they were able to do that because they tried to convince each and every country to join international organization and sign agreements. So they played a bigger role, a really big role. Then there are organizations like World Bank, International Monetary Fund, because after the war, what was the main problem? Reconstruction was the main problem. How can you reconstruct without proper financial backup? You won't be able to do that. If you want to reconstruct something, you need money for that. The countries were already affected by this war. They don't have money. They don't have money for the reconstruction activities. So that's why the World Bank and IMF funded many of these countries for the reconstruction aspects. Then there was another organization formed in 1948. It was known as GATT, General Agreement on Trade and Tariff. And that particular organization got another name. It was, we can say that it was advanced, and it got another name in 1995, that is WTO, World Trade Organization. Okay, in 1995 only, the World Trade Organization came into being. So this is what happened. So now just see how relevant it is, how relevant these organizations are. And there were many instances during after 1950s till 1991. There were many instances in which the United States of America and the USSR were trying to have a war. They were on the verge of a war. There was something called the Cuban Missile Crisis. That was in the year 1962, and that was a time where the whole world was looking at Cuba, because we were expecting a war. There was something called a Suez Canal crisis in the year 1956. Suez Canal is actually located in Egypt, right? So we were all looking at Egypt because they were on the verge of a war. The USA and USSR were on the verge of a war. So when they are into engaging in a war, which means the other countries which are following them or supporting them will also get into war. Okay, so it's affecting the entire international system. So if you look at both these countries, one is in Europe and one is America. So it affects everywhere. It affects everywhere. Whoever is having a relation with any of these countries will get affected. So in all those areas, you could see that UN was taking a stand. Okay, United Nations were trying to sort out these issues always, but we cannot say that they were successful in all levels or in all ways. If they were successful, the wars like the Indo-China War, Indo-Pakistan War, the Iraq invasion, the Afghanistan invasion, the Libyan invasion, all these things will not happen if they were highly effective. So they were effective in the initial timings, but later we could see that they were also they lost their autonomy or that supremacy. Okay, that's what happened. So international organizations, their agencies to be looked at carefully. Like if you look at international organization like UNO, there are General Assembly, Secretariat, or Security Council. So all these councils also become Economic and Social Council. All these council will become important. We need to study about that also. We need to study about International Labour Organization. We need to study about UNESCO. We need to study about the World Wildlife Organizations. So all these things are important for us. EU, European Union, the Latin American Union, NAFTA, North American Free Trade Agreement. So all these things are relevant for us when you are actually studying about international institutions. So these are the four important things that mentioned in mains examination syllabus. But these are the wordings. They are not clearly saying which are the institutions you need to study, which are the institutions you need to focus on. So that we are trying to understand, we are trying to make notes, or we are trying to make notes from the current affairs perspective, and then we study about it. Okay,